Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. I'm Rachael Flick and I'm here at the Waymaker World Conference in Orlando for the American Association of Christian Counselors. Today I have the honor of bringing you Dr. Rhona Epstein. She has devoted her life to helping others recover from food abuse and weight obsession, a battle that she herself had to fight. Since 1994, Rhona has provided individual, couples, family, and group psychotherapy at Life Counseling Services in Paoli, Pennsylvania. She treats a wide range of issues, but specializes in treating addictions and eating disorders. She received her doctorate in clinical psychology from Chestnut Hill College in 2009, and her dissertation, Binge Eating Disorder and the 12 Steps, focuses on understanding the strategies most relied upon by successfully recovering individuals. Dr. Rhona, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for inviting me along.
Yeah,
Glad
this
to be
is
here.
awesome. We haven't talked about anything to do with food or eating disorders or how those can affect people who've experienced loss. So I think that your message today is really important.
Thank you. I'm sure it can be helpful to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. So before we get into the therapeutic and your book, tell us a little bit about your story and what has made you passionate about working with this population.
Well, okay, so I was somebody who was a food abuser from the time I was really little. I came from a family where there was a food obsession with my parents, mostly my mom. So there was a lot of sweets in my house. And I was basically given freedom to make bad choices. And
Okay.
I had a sweet tooth, but it was like I didn't understand. Like today, as a psychologist and who's done research, I understand that sugar's addictive, but I don't think anybody really knew that, but I was living on Pop-Tarts and Captain Crunch and Oreos and ice cream, and it got really bad. Like it blew up from like a little girl who was sort of preoccupied with sweets to like a full-blown eating disorder by the time I was in my teens.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So
what did your eating disorder look like? Because there's a variety of ways that we can abuse food or, have compulsive thoughts around eating.
Mm-hmm. Well, it grew and grew from like sort of hiding, sneaking, lying, being a little preoccupied to bulimia. But so basically before I got help, by the time I hit bottom, when I was 17 is when I started getting help. So when I hit bottom, at that point, I had been starving to try to lose weight. And then I would get through the day and then go to the gym and run 5 miles, swim 2 miles, sit in a sauna, try to get through the day without eating, But I was I love food, so of course that didn't work very well. Left the gym straight to the Wendy's, junk out all night, binge thousands and thousands of calories of all sorts of junk food, mostly sugar, ice cream, half gallons of ice cream, entire boxes of cookies, and purging amphetamines that I got from my friends, basically full blown purge, I did everything all the symptoms. So I did the starving, the binging, the purging, and I still gained weight because I think my food obsession and addiction was stronger than my ability to cut it out.
Okay.
So, but I think I would have been severely obese by the way I was eating had I not had those other symptoms. So
yeah.
I starved enough to keep myself from being 500 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's interesting how, when we see it represented in the media or we hear about it in a book, it seems very clean cut, right? Like you're over exercising or you're, completely purely anorexic and starving yourself, as much as possible, or you're bulimic or you're a compulsive eater or, and what's true is that it can really be a combination of all of it. And that is just as harmful as, what is more classically portrayed.
Yeah, absolutely. And people think when you say bulimia, they assume skinny, but actually there's a lot of compulsive eaters and bulimics that you would never know by looking at them because they look absolutely normal or maybe slightly overweight. And if you looked at them, you would never know what's going on in their head. I mean, my experience was that this wasn't, whatever I was doing with food, what was going on in my head was even worse. All day fighting a battle.
Yes.
There was like no silence in my head. I always was trying to fight the battle. You're tempted, you want to stop, you're trying to stop, but then there's like the food's calling, and then you're freaking out because your weight, and it's like an all-day event, and it never stops.
That's such a good way to articulate that. I actually really relate to your story and had the same as a child growing up, using food to self-medicate. And then by the time I hit high school, becoming very severely anorexic and bulimic, and just the body dysmorphia. Like when I look back, at that point I was probably like 70 pounds less than I am now, as a relatively healthy size at 5'11". And I thought, all I could see was weight. All I could see was imperfection. All I could see was, what was wrong with me. And I just so relate to just that torment in your mind, right? The moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, it's all about food, your weight, fighting it, wanting it. And it's just such a battle in the mind that you are trying to hide from others. And I think for me, I wonder if you can relate to this. A lot of it was about, became in the compulsive places of anorexia, bulimia, exercise, about trying to have a perfect appearance. Do you relate to that perfectionism piece of it?
Well, never thought I could measure up. So
No,
of course,
but
so it
striving,
was the fear of
right?
being, I actually, it's scary when I look back at my teenage self and I look at my pictures and I looked very normal, but I thought I was fat and ugly.
Yes.
My distortion was so intense. I think what was happening is my belly was a little, it still is puffy. I have like a little.
Just your shape.
I'm not.
Yes,
I'm not
you're very
fat.
fit.
I just have a big,
Yeah.
like a little Pillsbury, whatever. I have a little puffy.
Not all of us are naturally come to equipped with six-pack abs, okay?
Yeah, I
that's
definitely
just...
don't. I have a little rolly midsection, which is very much genetic. My mom, her mom, it's all in the family. We all have our parts. It's usually something with everybody's got something. That was mine, but boy, I was obsessed with it. And it's like I was laser focused on that. It's all I could see. And I couldn't see any other part of me. I couldn't see that I was normal looking, that my weight was fine for my height. I couldn't see anything. All I saw was the rolly thing on my belly, and I thought I was like a moose.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's such a magnifier, right? That pain and that body dysmorphia is like a huge magnifying glass or a funhouse mirror, right? Like you see yourself like in a funhouse mirror every day.
Yes, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, from a spiritual standpoint, I think it's sort of like the devil's playhouse. It's like that's a way of getting a person totally distracted, totally destroyed. I mean, people get so depressed. I was so depressed I felt like dying. I have clients who feel like dying over this, and totally beautiful people who spend all day worrying about these things and not being able to have a normal functioning life because of being worried about an ounce of fat on their underarms or, this or that. And,
Yeah. So what brought you to that place then? You said you started to get help at 17. What needed to happen, or what kind of connection were you starting to make where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore?
Well, I mean, I was always looking for a fix, mostly diets, but of course I think something was breaking down. I mean, I started to, my thoughts changed from what's the next magic diet to what country can I live in and be overweight where people won't care? Because I didn't think I was getting out of it. I started realizing
You're
something.
like, they really value women who have extra weight in Africa.
I started,
that's beautiful in their culture.
Exactly. I was seriously,
Yeah.
when I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. I actually I started to feel hopeless, like this wasn't going to get fixed. I think I knew I had been lying in front of people like I'm on a diet, and I would eat the right things in front of people, and then I was sneaking all this junk food behind closed doors. So I had this double thing going on, and I just knew down deep I was never going to lick this. And so I think I really was. I wanted to run away from home. I wanted to run away to another country. And I just think there was like an end here. I did want to die every day. I wanted to die because I really felt hopeless. So, and so I went to a psychologist. She looked at me like, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. When I'm pretty sure she didn't know what to do with me. And back then, this was a long time ago, before eating disorders were like a thing. There was no such thing as bulimia and anorexia.
Really?
These names. I mean, I'm older. I mean, you know,
Well, you look fabulous. Everybody, the listeners, Dr. Rhona is a beautiful woman sitting here in front of me.
But I'm not young. So it was I was going through, so I graduated high school in 1981.
Okay.
So it was 80 that I was having my breakdown. So and that's when I saw the psychologist, who stared at me like she had no idea what to do. I mean, there was no book text. It wasn't in the textbooks. No one knew the name. No one knew what to do with this.
I didn't realize that wasn't there in the 80s.
Nope,
Okay.
not there. So, no, I remember some family friend brought a magazine article out, and there was somebody talking about binging and purging. It was like the first time this had ever been seen, like some magazine wrote about it. But I mean, so I went to see this person, but I mean, really no one knew what to do. But somehow or another, by God's grace, and I didn't know God. I was raised Jewish. God wasn't in my life. And so, you know, I didn't have a relationship with God. But I know God was leading me to a recovery group where there was God in it. And somehow I ended up there. And I believe it was God, because I was so ready to just die. I didn't really know how. I was hopeless. But somehow I ended up, because somebody told me about this group, and they said it helped them. And I could see from looking at this person that they were totally different. They didn't just lose weight. They had peace. They were different. There was something totally drastically different about this person. So I went. I dragged my little 17-year-old self by myself, no support from my parents, didn't even tell them I was going, went to this group of old ladies and sat in the back of this big group, and they didn't talk about food and weight. There was no scale. They were talking about God, and they were talking about people being, you know, recognizing that they were really sick and that they needed help and they needed God. And these people were real and authentic, and they helped me, and they led me to God, and they led me to understand what the underlying issues and the real problems, that it wasn't just a diet problem, that it was more like an alcohol problem.
Yeah. So shame is it's the only emotion that cannot be catharted or expressed. And so the one way that we can dissipate shame is by bringing whatever we're ashamed about to others and receiving acceptance and compassion.
Yes.
And I hear that in your story, to be able to share that with these women in this group.
Oh yeah, what it was. I mean, they were so nice and kind to me, and I did feel so. I mean, my mom, my own mother, was so rejecting of me. She was so mean to me about my weight. Like she despised the fact that I had been gaining weight, and she showed it on her face every day. She really was horrified that I was gaining weight the way I was. And to go into a room full of people her age who were so loving and so understanding and kind, and I mean, just like there, you know, offering help and understanding and getting it. Like, I thought I was like really crazy.
Yeah.
And these people,
you're all by yourself. Nobody can relate to you.
Yeah. And then when it's a whole different thing when people say, oh yeah, I know what it's like to be in such a battle where I threw the food in the trash. This is where the real thing, like somebody standing up in the front of the room saying, I threw the food out because I was trying to quit, and then took it out of the trash and still ate it. And like people in there admitting that.
Yeah.
And you're
that's
like,
powerful.
Dude, you know I'm crazy. You're crazy. We're all crazy. And you realize that's no one's going to admit that. And you're so busy hiding it.
Yes.
And then, you know, people telling the truth about being obsessed and crazy.
So I can see where this has just come from a core place of passion and your own recovery process. And so what does that look like in your book, Satisfied? What are you working on with your most recent project?
Well, I actually have 3 books. So
Okay.
Food Triggers was my first book, and that's sort of all about, and they're all biblically based. So Food Triggers is sort of more of a roadmap to how to recover from food addiction, and it goes through the body, mind, and the spirit. So it goes through like the physiological aspects of food addiction, and it helps people understand the psychological and the spiritual. Satisfied is a devotional. And it's a 90-day devotional that's really aimed to help people who are stuck. A lot of people, when they come to me, this is sort of the most popular thing. Most people come to me, I see a lot of people who are like very obese or overweight or really stuck in the battle with overeating, and they're not really ready to change. And they kind of like know that, like, it's sort of like when I ask them, are you ready to change? They're like, well, I should be, or I know I need to be. But they're really not ready
not
to
motivated
change.
internally.
Right, because they're what the food's doing in terms of comfort and escape and the attachment to the food. It's very hard to let go of it because of the what it's doing, and the fear of letting it go, and what that's going to do in terms of feelings coming up and unresolved pain, and they don't know whether they're going to be able to handle dealing with it. They don't really know what's going to happen emotionally. They've been
It's
stuffing.
scary, right?
It's
And we
very
don't know what's
scary.
in the rabbit hole.
Right.
And so if I go in there, what if I can't get out? Or what if it's even more horrible than I fear that it is?
Right. And so Satisfied is sort of meant to, it's like a 90-day sort of get to the heart of the issue with God. It's like a gentle sort of touch into the heart, inviting people to walk with God, to bring him into it, to help a person realize they're not alone, that to really understand the problem, to reconcile it with God, to be kind of turn it over, to be ready to turn it over, not just from a diet perspective, but also from the emotions and the spiritual. There's just so much more to it.
Dr. Rhona, you mentioned a couple things that sound like they could be connected to why this was a direction that you were drawn in for compulsive eating. And you said, your mom was judgmental about your weight and you were feeling, judged by her body language, her expressions, maybe even directly, verbally. And you also said, you mentioned the word attachment to food.
Yes.
And I think sometimes when we're not getting our needs met in the home, we turn our attachment onto food instead of relationships that can help us.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of the underpinnings that make us susceptible to an eating disorder?
Yes, absolutely. I rarely meet a person who has compulsive eating or food abuse that doesn't have some sort of emotional baggage that's behind it. Occasionally, it seems like it's like a simple matter of habit, or somebody just needing to fix their bad eating habits, like they're eating over boredom, or they just maybe having a sweet tooth that they just need to get off sugar. And once they do, the cravings stop. And that's really simple, and they're not complicated. But I'd say the vast majority of people who come to see me, and I think the statistics are something like 50% of people with eating disorders have trauma in their background, and that's probably not including all the people with other psychological issues that are not trauma, like depression, anxiety, and various other emotional issues. People use food, and it's easy. It's like I was saying earlier, it's like the good girls addiction, especially Christian women. It's like we're not going to use necessarily cocaine and heroin, but you can down that ice cream, and you can, and people even laugh about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're gonna, let's go to Dairy Queen and make ourselves feel better, and people just go like, oh yeah, let's all go, and no one's ever gonna say that that's a problem, even though that's right there in the scriptures. But yes, I mean, pain, emotional pain, and not knowing what to do with it. It's a bad coping strategy, and then it turns on you. So it can be for anything, and that's half of what I have to do in my work with people. Why my work never really ends. When people try to end overeating, and then they start realizing all the things that they're using food for.
Right.
They start realizing they're using it for all those things: boredom, sadness, grief, anger, resentment, because they're afraid to speak up for themselves. They have they don't have assertiveness skills, so they just eat because they'd rather just numb out their feelings than stand up for themselves. And so much of my work is to help people separate the food from the rest of their life, so that the food is like in its own place. Like I help people get on a healthy food plan and then untangle the food from all their emotions so that they're not using food as a drug.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's really hard, right? Because, you know, you mentioned cocaine or heroin, or like, we don't need that to survive, right? You can cut that. It's not like, oh, I just need a little cocaine every day, you know, but we can't cut food, right? This can't be an all or nothing thing. And so that can make that a lot more complicated. You know, how do I do this in moderation? How do I still experience pleasure? It's funny, I got COVID this year.
I'm sorry.
And, oh, well, thank you. But, you know, I lost my sense of smell and taste for 5 days, like completely. Like I was kind of playing around with it and like eating things that I knew, like, you know, were spicy or really sweet or, you know, things like that. Absolutely nothing. It was like holding food in my hand. I could tell if it was hard, cold, crunchy, but I couldn't taste anything. And it was so interesting to me to see like how quickly I became unmotivated to eat. Like regardless of, I was like, well, I'm not going to taste it anyway, right? Like if I, you know, have the soup, like it's just going in, you know, whatever. And it was really eye-opening for me to see, you know, how, you know, food is a type of pleasure, right? And it can be a healthy pleasure, you know, but that motivation, that draw towards this is going to light up those pleasure centers in my brain, draws us into eating. And that when we lose that, it's like, well, why would I do that? You know? So very interesting to see how that was connected. And I think too, food is really difficult to get healing and freedom around because it's kind of from the core of our being in our childhood, right? Like those patterns that start so young and become ingrained early are some of the most difficult ones to peel away from who we are as adults.
That's true. It's very true. Well, for people who are doing food recovery, we learn sort of that there are ways to make it less complicated. Like for me, I had a sugar addiction. I don't need ice cream to live.
Right.
That's my heroin. Okay. So for me, it's really
donuts, raising my hand
donuts, ice cream, and everything in that category. That's all like my heroin, my cocaine. So that's not anything I need for nourishment. And actually, most of the things that people abuse are not nourishing foods.
That's true. It's not like people are pigging out on celery.
Nobody's pigging out on celery unless there's gobs of peanut butter on it.
Yeah, that's that's an exception.
Sugary peanut butter.
Yeah.
Not unsweetened peanut butter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, it is more complicated than substance abuse, but it's not once a person learns what they need to do with their food. And that is something that a person can learn. You know, what do they actually need to do to stay away from the slippery slope of food abuse? So it's a big change. I just spoke to somebody just now on my way here who's made a big change in her life when got off sugar and has talked about how hard it was to make that change in her life.
Yeah.
But once you understand what to do, it's not impossible. So when you realize you have to, because it really is a drug for you and it really is making you ruin your life, then, you know, it becomes worth it. Like, why, if you are going to have that obsession and it's going to make you hate yourself, then it becomes something worth changing.
Yeah. So if someone's listening to this and they're going, wow, okay, I can see this in myself and I want to do something about it. What are a couple of the top things that someone who's looking for help can do to start making a shift?
Well, I would say the first thing is to get a support system because doing it alone is too difficult. So you got to have the right tribe, so to speak, to get around you because that is what really makes a difference. Accountability, people around you who've been there, who understand. So there's a lot of online support nowadays, especially since COVID. And there's Christian groups and there's secular groups that are really for these. And so I think tap into those groups and see,
that's good.
What's there for that. And finding a nutritionist that understands how to deal with this, it's very difficult because most nutritionists don't recognize food addiction. So I treat food addiction, but some people have eating disorders and it's not food addiction. So you have to figure out with the right person what you need with food. And that's a whole nother day and a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's really extensive. Yeah, nutritional deficiencies, and there's such a wide variety of ways that this can look. So community support, seeing a nutritionist, and ideally, great to see a counselor or therapist.
A counselor, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And the right one, and that's the challenge, is figuring out. I see it as there are, like many things in medicine, you have different treatment approaches.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think people quit too soon. And I think a person needs to find what's the right avenue for them to go on. And if they try one and it's not right for them, then try another. Because in the eating disorders world, there's a lot of people who do intuitive eating, and they have a whole way of doing things that it's not the way I do it. I do a food addiction model, which is much more of a structured food and, get off the addictive foods. And then intuitive eating is a very different way of treating people. These are two different paths. They work for different people, and they're both solid ways of doing it. And sometimes you try one and then that doesn't work. You try another.
Yeah. So if you've had something in the past that you haven't had success with, it doesn't mean that there isn't anything else out there that could help.
Exactly. It's just like a lot of things, a lot of different mental health problems. Sometimes people need to go to different therapists or different treatment centers. And some you just have to kind of be about being motivated. People get defeated. I think what happens when I see people, they come to me and they've been on 1,000 diets. They've gained and lost 100 pounds over and over. And they get to me and they're like, what is the reason why I should try again?
Yeah.
And I get it. I really get it. They're like, well, I don't even want to try anymore. I don't believe anything's ever going to work. And I get that. So with God, with the right supports, and we try again. And, people have to be intentional and really make up their mind to seek really for God to give us strength in our weakness, to help us do what we can't do on our own. And even to face the feeling of hopelessness and the feeling that we don't even feel like trying anymore.
So speak to that hopelessness as someone who has recovered from food addiction. What can a life free of that addiction look like? What could they look forward to in a life of recovery that they don't have right now?
Right. Well, that is a fantastic question. And if people could really make themselves think about that, maybe they would do it. Because believe me when I tell you, I have countless stories that I've seen with my own eyes, including my own. I have zero battle with food today. And it's been like that for decades where I don't have a battle.
Yeah, you can get out of your head. You're not
my head's
stuck.
There's
in that
no
trap
obsession
all day long.
Right, it's done. And I mean, it took a while. It took a lot of therapy, working through those issues, childhood issues, and emotional issues, and learning how to cope in different ways. And really solidly, I have to every day turn my life over to God and keep dealing with my feelings in the right way. I don't have an escape mechanism. I can't use unhealthy things to escape. I have to deal straight with my feelings. But let me tell you, I can't count how many people I have seen walk out of this insanity and get into their right size physically. But then what they'll say is that becomes almost the like the extra, because the freedom and the peace, that becomes more amazing than even the weight loss. Weight loss is great. It's so nice when people are living their lives, and they can put on normal clothes and go buy cute things that they haven't been able to fit into, and they feel free in their bodies, and they're getting things back that they fit into chairs that they didn't used to fit into, and they're able to go enjoy activities that they couldn't enjoy. That's nice, but there's nothing like being able to wake up in the morning and not be worried and hate yourself and hate your body and be in a food fight all day long, trying to fight off the urges and the temptations all day long, to have peace all day and know what you're doing, have clarity. I'm going to eat this. I know this is what I eat. God's in charge. He's in the driver's seat. You know what to do. You have clarity.
That's incredibly hopeful, Dr. Rhona. Thank you so much. If people want to connect more with your resources, where can they find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, Dr. Rhona. My name's spelled R-H-O-N-A, so it's D-R-R-H-O-N-A. Okay. And I think on Facebook it's Dr. Rhona Official. Somebody else had Dr. Rhona. And I have a website, drrhona.com. So that's
wonderful. Yeah. And you have Food Triggers, your devotional Satisfied, and you said you had one other book?
My newest book is a workbook, and it's called Satisfied, the Satisfied Workbook. So that's takes people through actually the 12 steps in a Christian way for food related issues. So
that sounds like a powerful tool.
Very powerful.
Yeah. So everybody, if this is connecting for you, you can go and grab Satisfied and the journal and just kind of start to look at what does peace and freedom look like. That was just so encouraging, because it can be so easy to be discouraged. And so to paint a picture for people that it's worth the fight, it's worth the work, there is a future and a hope for you if you will be willing to invest in it. Dr. Rhona, thank you so much for being here today on the Hopecast.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's just been my pleasure. I love that we got to talk about this topic and offer this resource to the listeners. Everybody, this has been the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you would rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, that would be so helpful for getting the message of hope out to more people. Know that you are prayed for and loved, and I will connect with you again next week.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.